What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Ponytails Podcast. I'm your host, Andres Gamboa, and in this show, we talk to people who sold books door to door for Southwestern Advantage, a company that's been recruiting college kids to do this door to door job since 1868. The books are designed to help families with homework and help them get their kids more time or better grades in school. They recruit college kids to sell these books in a different part of the country. They're going 80 hours a week door to door for their entire summer between college years. And so we go and talk to these alumni of this program and ask them about what they're up to now, how that impacted their lives, and some stories of the field back in the day. My guest today is one of my favorite people I've ever met because of this program. Old friend of mine. I've known Will now for at least 10 years. Will Metscher is with us. Southwestern Consulting is his current passion, and he is killing it at that. He was a 9-summer bookman, part of the Force organization, sold from 2008 to 2016, and went to the University of Missouri, MIC, COU, hailing from St. Louis. Woo woo, go Cards! Big time Cards fan, big time Blues fan, big time. I should probably ask. I don't know if he's still a Rams fan or whatever, but who knows? Either way, his favorite scroll is number 6. Today will be the Master of My Emotions, which I think is the first person who has asked or who has made that their favorite. So when we come back, we will be on with Will, continuing on in season 8 of the Ponytails podcast. What's up, dude?
Hey, buddy. Miss your face, man.
I know. I moved to Portland and then you move away. I feel like it's hard to not take that personally.
You know what's funny is I'm drinking from a Portland. This is a Portland map.
Oh, that's
And
sick.
yeah, you see? You live right there.
Yeah.
You see that spot? Yeah.
In the southeast. Where? Can you actually see me?
I
Lads
don't
on
know.
12th and Hawthorne, southeast, inner southeast.
Ooh.
You might be able to see the fun because Lads is specifically it's designed specifically so you can pick it out on a map from way up. Looks like that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
probably.
talking about?
I got Rose City Park. I got Richmond, Boise.
Dude,
That's like
that's
out there, though.
sweet cup.
Man, okay. Side note, my first time ever, and you're right, I did move from Portland right after you had moved there, so I feel like a shithead for that. But
Wow.
my
So
first
don't
day
tell me
in
you miss
Portland,
me. It's just your fault.
and I miss the weirdness of Portland, like
Oh, dude.
Portlandia, and like how they portray Portland is like it's very, very similar. And I remember I was downtown and I see this dude playing bagpipes standing on a Death Star ball, and he's got a kilt and a Darth Vader mask. And as he's playing the bagpipes, flames are shooting out of the top of the bagpipes. And in the background, I took a picture of this. I'm not making this shit up. It's on my Instagram. It says "Keep Portland Weird" right behind it. And it's like
as is the right way.
that's the introduction. That is Portland to a T.
It's exactly right. That's exactly that's where I live. Bro, it's so strange.
I do miss you, man.
Me too, dude. It's been every time. I mean, you've come back and visited, so that's good. I've got to see you a couple times. But since you were on the show with Andy, first of all, I'm amazed that this is the first time you have a solo episode. I had you on with Andy, and we're probably going to overlap some of those stories that you share there, but I don't really care because people won't go back and listen to it since it was so long ago.
Yeah.
And so we can kind of go over from the beginning here. But dude, I can't believe it took this long. So 186 episodes. Let's go, season 8.
It just required me asking again, you asshole. Like I was just sitting back waiting to be invited again. And it's like I had to talk to Amy and she's like, oh yeah, let's get you on.
Yeah.
You had to hit a quota. Come on.
I don't have to hit a quota. We're recording this. We're recording this as this is airing. When this airs, I will be in Colombia. So I was like, we can squeeze We can squeeze Will in here. Let's do it. Dude, so
Yeah.
first of all, we're drinking some whiskey for people who are just listening. So if you're drinking, drink with us. Unless you're driving, please don't do that. And if you're on the book field, go for it. I'm kidding. Don't do it. But cheers to you, sir. Let's talk about some stuff. Catch up since the last time we seen you.
Cheers, man.
Cheers to you,
Absolutely.
sir. Oh, ooh. This doesn't mess around.
What
You
are
ever
you
had this
drinking?
big nose Kate Western whiskey?
Big Nose Kate. Do you
Yeah,
have the
it's from Santa
bottle?
Fe. Yeah, we're not
No.
we're not sponsored by Big Nose, but wow, this is good.
Hmm.
Yummy.
Or
So it's gonna be.
Woodford Reserve Double Oaked.
We can be sponsored by them too. That would be awesome. But anyway, dude. Okay, so let's catch up. We've talked about Southwestern Consulting quite a bit. Um, I want to be very open with people. You know how we are here on the show. It's just very transparent. What I know this is what you're up to now. The other day we pointed out that you've been working there almost as long as you sold books for. Like it's been a
Yeah.
chunk of your life already. What has this journey been like for you from a personal standpoint? We'll talk about what you do here in a little bit and like kind of how you help people and what people get from working with coaching. But for you personally, how has your career been so far as you look back and you go, shit, it's been 6-7 years of my life doing this. What's it been like?
Hmm. Man, a roller coaster of emotions. Um, for sure. And like good, challenging, shitty, amazing, exciting, like you can kind of bottle it all into one. And just the idea, I had this perception of what real life was going to be like. And the idea of, this job that, working, I don't know why I thought like either entrepreneur, or like some corporate American job and like just crank in. And I'm like, oh man, it'd be so great if I can make six figures. And I had this like mindset of like what it was going to look like. And, um, I think the idea that we overestimate what's possible in a year and we way underestimate what's possible in 10 years. I would never imagine that I would be doing what I'm doing right now, wearing like sweatpants, having conversations with people of many backgrounds and industries, and like being able to talk about shit that I learned from the book field and being able to like have a conversation about a buying atmosphere and have somebody that made 300,000 be like, whoa, that's such a cool idea. And you're like, what? Really? Like I had this perception that I was going to go from like door to door and working with college kids. And it was going to be like so incredibly hard, like getting into the real world. And obviously it's got its ups and downs, but it's just perception is reality. And, it's been fun, man. Not to say my job is easy. Like you still have to, no matter what you're doing, like you still have to work hard at it. It's just, I'm grateful, for what I was able to gain from knocking on doors 80 hours a week.
Well, but I mean, and this is, I mean, these episodes are a little different because when I know the person, I can see the growth. You know what I'm saying? Like I've known you since before you started working here.
Yeah.
And now, so seeing
More
how
than
far you
10
come.
years.
Yeah, dude, it's been a while. So for me, what I've noticed of you is when you were in Southwestern selling books, Advantage part of things, there was a lot of confidence, but not as much. I mean, I'm sure there was, but relatively to today, there was a ton of confidence, not as chillness about it, not as calm steadiness about it. This could be
Mhm.
maturity that you've gotten older and stuff. But then when I ran into you in Portland, which we got to talk about that evening that I ran into you in Portland, because it kind of gave birth to the podcast. But when I first ran into you that day,
That's
there's this
true.
level. Yeah, dude. Yeah. But
Oh,
when I ran,
connections.
you're right. We'll get to that for sure. But I remember strikingly how I hadn't talked to you at that point for a while because I was living in Lincoln, you were living in St. Louis, and you were all over the place, and then you moved to Portland because of
Mhm.
this job, essentially in a way. And it had been years since I saw you, and dude, there was this like calmness to it. So where did that come from? How did you find this chill, like ability to kind of chill it out, relax from being this full timer who's trying to hit 10,000 units and all engine systems go. How did you learn to chill it out like that, but still perform at a high level? Because you'll never let us know this, but people, just so you guys know, Will's one of the top coaches at consulting. He's like crushing it right now. So I'll brag for you. But how are you achieving that?
Man, and thank you, first off. I think you don't have time to like contemplate or like really think a lot. When you're in kind of and I'm going to use this term lightly, but like the hamster wheel of selling books. I wouldn't change, for anything, my 9 summers. In fact, I may have sold 10 just to be that asshole that has double-digit numbers of selling. But the idea of just working on having more balance and being able to do shit that I actually enjoy, and being able to take time and work on like the relationships, and be able to work on like physical life, and be able to work on like mental stuff, and like obviously I got there from knocking on doors and selling books, but it kicks your ass. And being able to learn from that and be able to be like, wait, I don't actually have to do anything because it's 5:00, and I don't have to worry about like, where's my next sale coming from, and just feel like the rush that you would always feel recruiting and selling. I think that kind of helped to level things out a little bit, and bring a level of, confidence and living life and doing it like in a normal cadence. And you would also talk to me like, I remember anybody from Nebraska listening to this, I would just get these calls from like Nebraska kids, like pump up calls when I was selling books. And it was like, it's going to be a fucking great day. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Ah! And then they'd hang up, and I'm like, man, hey Shane, what's up, dude? And like, there was not a level of chill in some senses with people in force. And I think it took a little bit of, some when selling, and then eventually out of it to take a step out of like the intensity.
Yeah. Well, this is true. I think some people don't handle it well. That crash after, when you go sell books and then you're done selling books, and then it's 5:00, like you said, and you're like, oh, you're done. Like, go and plug.
Yeah.
Actually, for you to be able to perform well, you need to stop going at 100 miles an hour. You usually need to go at 20 miles an hour so that you can balance.
Or they overdo it and take like way too much time and don't want to do shit, and want to just be given a 6-figure salary because they sold books.
Yes. Or they don't, there's no structure to whatever the next job is, as much as there was structure and systems in place at Southwestern. And so they flail because there's nobody really, they're coachable, but there's nobody coaching. And so now you have a problem, which actually kind of brings us to the importance of what you do. So
yeah,
this is probably that's probably the need, that what you have becomes the most important, is when that happens. We come out of the book field and it's pretty easy. You work hard, study hard, be coachable. The coachability means go get 30 demos. You got somebody telling you how to knock, when to knock, what you're supposed to say, word for word from beginning to end, what to look for, whatnot. Like, there's like so much systems and structure in place that people leave. They lose that coaching, or they have a hard time applying that in its equivalency to what their new job is. And so then now they need someone like you. So tell me now a little bit about, what is your day-to-day? What do you spend your time doing? What does the sales process look like? How is it the same, and how is it different from selling books?
Man, you've rehearsed selling books as far as what to say, the 80 hours, this is not your first podcast, Andres. This is good. Man, and so yeah, what I do is it's one-on-one professional sales and leadership, and we can kind of throw life coaching into that, because again, how we do anything is how we do everything, and how we're showing up in our professional lives is also how we're showing up in our personal lives. And there's connection there. If we're, fucking off and procrastinating, not, cleaning our garage, there's a good chance that if you're in sales, you're not cleaning out your pipeline, or if you're not intentional about building out your schedule, you're probably not as on point when it comes to, oh, there we go. Is that really the second one?
Yeah.
Um, the and so the idea of having someone to be intentional to and have accountability for is what we do. It's one-on-one sales performance and leadership coaching every other week. And I get to work with people of all different spectrums. I work with a guy who, one of my favorite clients, he's always rocking like a new mustache or hilarious beard or mullet, and he works as an arborist. He cuts trees down and like removes stumps and all that. And just the conversations that we have um, are amazing. And just some of the things that he'll tell me and be honest and vulnerable about, and like the things that he's doing. And then I'll talk to somebody that owns like a multi-million-dollar business or franchise, or is running a whole region of a division. And the things that we talk about, it's very similar. It's just, doing the things that we know we should be doing, having a plan and executing on it. And so many people, they jump into a new career and they like really put their head down and work really hard for 1 year. And then when people are like, I have 20 years experience, it's like, do you though? Like, were you a student of the game for the last 20 years, or did you have 1 year of experience repeated 20 times?
Yes.
And so
Oh,
that's what
oh,
we get to do, is we help people see past their own self-limiting beliefs and not be assholes to themselves and treat themselves bad, and like build intention and have a plan around their vision and help them execute on it.
okay. So I'm gonna keep drilling you about this because I like where this is going, but I also want to stop to what you just said there, because we were talking about this a little bit too before, but we didn't get to expand on it as much. But this idea of 20 years of experience and versus 1 year of experience 20 times over, boy, isn't that like most people getting caught? I mean, whether it's in work, I mean, think about people in their marriage too, or that way, where it's like, have you guys
Yeah.
been married for 20 years, or has it been the same year 20 times over, and you haven't
You just
grown
repeat it.
personally or
Yeah.
as a couple? Um, what what are the biggest takeaways from, or what are the biggest perils, I guess, people have when considering this? How do you avoid 1 year 20 times, and how do you move more towards 20 years of experience in your experience?
Yeah. I think, not to sound like an asshole, but get a coach. Um,
No, that's fair. I mean, yes, I agree. I don't think you sound like an asshole, so keep going.
it's like, oh, self-promotion here, but no, seriously, like I have multiple coaches, and I probably have one or two too many, and I'd like thought about firing one of them going into the new year, and then we'd have a kick-ass call, and I'm like, damn it, okay, I guess well, I need to keep doing this because there's value here. Um, just the idea of like introspection and always constantly taking a look back to, what are the things that I can create or change. And then this sounds really dumb too, but have goals and have a vision, and not like the bullshit like I write my goals down every year because my manager tells me to, and then you're digging in your drawer and you're finding like 2014 goals, like actual like intentional, here's what I'm going to do differently, here's what I need
Hmm.
to learn, here's how I need to focus. And part of that is it's a goal thing, but part of that's a vision thing, and having a clear vision for what we're building, and that's
Yeah.
key.
So I'm gonna dig into this, but before we go into there, there's one thing that I wanted to still hear from you about your job as a whole, and then we'll dig into this idea of vision, because I think this is a good opportunity to talk about that, and it deserves its own, like, time on the show. So before we get into that, when it comes to the biggest differences that you're noticing in your life and in your schedule between when you were like full timing to what it looks like now, What can you speak of about balance and how you've achieved that for you? So let's talk about how you've achieved balance in your life or working towards that. And then I want to go into the vision stuff because you just mentioned you're every time you talk, there's like a golden nugget of wisdom. So I'm like, hold on, we need to one at a time. And then we'll get to the next one. So balance, and then we'll go into vision.
Man, I'll be honest, like balance was really hard for me. Um, because I think I recognized when I was selling books, in order to continue to get better, in order to keep growing, like I needed to constantly be doing something. Because, in my head when I was recruiting, I'm like, man, there's going to be a recruiter somewhere in Minnesota that's beating me on how many calls they're making in an evening and how many, doors I'm knocking on over the summer. And like, there's going to be some first year from Iowa that's knocking on doors and beating me there. And so there was like this constant, like, I got to get better. I got to keep moving. I got to keep, and like the keeping moving thing, even like you got to run to the next door and, like, let me roll down my window in the back seat so I can, we all know this, toss your book bag in there without having to take the extra 2 seconds of opening the door and putting it in the back seat. That was really hard for me. And I've had to have other people kind of call me out and be like, hey, it's okay to schedule breaks. It's okay to allow your
Oof.
brain to like defrag and like not be fucking working constantly all the time and like putting our head down. And so, part of it was experiencing a little burnout when I was here at consulting, and I would just stack my day and I would just allow other people to, in some sense, control my day. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to schedule this, and I'm going to start at this time, and I'm going to go all the way to. I don't need lunch. Like I got to get these calls in, and it totally messed with my head, and I just wasn't as present. I didn't feel as connected to my clients. I don't think it really affected my coaching per se, but it affected my ability to work on myself and then save time for myself and my wife to actually like give a shit and like pour into her and pour into myself. And okay, I'm going to get done with work and I'm going to go on a run. Like I wasn't able to do that. And so that balance, that was a really hard transition from books to working at consulting, was giving myself grace and the ability to actually have balance.
Bro, and that right there is another way to avoid, 1 year of 20 times, right? Because you're growing, you're perceiving, you're pursuing that growth during the time that you get to rest. And I think that's important. Also, just when you're resting, to allow yourself to not feel guilty. I love that you kind of said that, where it's like, if you're gonna binge watch a TV show, which means you watch one episode a day, that's okay. Like if your job's getting done in the way that you relax with your wife is to watch TV, great. But when you're watching TV, watch TV with your wife, as in like be present, pay attention, be in the moment, and don't think about the next client you need to get because you're taking time away. Or maybe it's not watching TV. Maybe it's drawing or journaling or whatever it is that people enjoy doing, right? It's be there and be at that place. Being there is important because otherwise you're not really off work. You're just playing soccer while you're working or watching TV while you're working.
Soccer, Quidditch, basketball,
whatever it is,
whatever
running
people
on
do in their
doing the
spare
crazy
time.
fucking runs that you do, animals, which will also
Can we
probably
just
get to.
we'll get to that, but can we just pause and how you casually mentioned like, binge watching one episode a night? That's not binge watching.
Well, but I feel like if you watch one episode a night for 6 nights in a row, you're binging it. Like, because back in the day, TV was like it came out like on Monday nights, and you didn't watch it again until Monday night. So to me, anything that's more than one week is binging. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's like, we'll sit there for 3 episodes.
And there's a draw for the ability to have balance and be healthy. And like if you watch 3 episodes in a night, great. Just don't do it every night. But how you choose to relax is also how you choose to relax. And if you want to watch TV for a couple hours each night or whatever it is, like I think we've gotten to this world where it's all of a sudden like in the world of trying to get better, it's like, man, that's frowned upon. Like, man, it's seasons. It's seasons of life. We don't have to feel like we're in this constant, hamster wheel of go, 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 go,
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. So yeah. And so money wise, and it just seemed like it was going to be the leads, which I wanted to go back to that because you mentioned this, and that's another thing that maybe Southwestern people don't understand is leads. That's kind of like you're saying, basically, imagine you show up to a town to sell books, you send a postcard out to every single family that has kids in school or young children, asking them if they struggle with any of the following subjects, yes or no. Would you be interested in hearing about a product that might help you with all those subjects, yes or no, name and address, and then you just waited at your HQ for like a couple of weeks, and then you got in the mail like 700 people returning that postcard saying, come to my house, here's where I live. Hi, are you the mom of the house? Yes, and we've heard of you. Great.
Yeah. Is this your handwriting,
let's-
Miss Betty? Yeah, that's my handwriting.
yeah.
You got a few minutes? It's again, you're not selling every single lead that you sit down with, but the leads is kind of what interested me because that kind of anxiety feeling that I talked about at Southwestern and the anxiety I had with Family Heritage, I honestly didn't think that was going to go away, but it has. It's gone away when I sold. You know, I still had a little bit of anxiety, but after that first knock, it goes away. But much less anxiety every week because I know I have fresh leads coming in. And so even if this day doesn't work out, I know I got typically our agents will get anywhere from 25 to 50 leads a week of people that they can go and call on.
I want people to understand what it is that you do, how you do it, why you do it, all of the good stuff. You hear a lot about coaching. You hear a lot about life coach, sales coach, business coach, yada, yada coach.
Man, I think just to start off, like what it isn't, it's not training. It's not showing up and having somebody talk at you for 45 minutes to an hour. And like the way that I look at it is we're all human beings. We're all broken in some capacity. And we all know a lot of the people that I work with, they know what they're supposed to be doing. They're just not executing on it, or they're not doing it as intentionally as they should be. Or they're just not focused. They have like 15 different goals or 15 different things that they're trying to balance or do. And because of that, like they're not as intentional as they should be at home, or they're not as intentional as they should be at work, and they're not picking up the phone and calling people. And it's like having a personal trainer for your business. It's having intention on why we do what we do every day and creating clarity and helping to build our lives and our calendars around what our future goals and intentions are.
That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show. Yeah, who was talking about this? Was it Alicia or you? Somebody was talking about, you know, Manny Machado. He's obviously the baseball player. And he is known for jogging to the first base. Like he never really
champion of like the bat flip too, man. He just flips the shit out of that bat if he hits a jacks a home run.
It's awesome. He's great. I'm a Padres fan, so huge for us.
Oh, but screw you in this year, man. Like if you guys don't win, and how many people you've added to that roster, and how much money you're paying those guys.
Tatis got. Listen, moving on. That's neither here nor there. That's a story for Bisler.
But the idea of him walking to first.
So the reporters were like, "Hey, why don't you go 100%?" And by the way, when you think of a world-class athlete, you know, like Michael Jordan, they're always going 100%. And and he goes, because I can go 100% 3/4 of the time because I'll probably end up getting injured or worse, or I can go like 80, 85%, 100% of the time. And that actually is way better for momentum, consistency, just over. Everybody knows that consistency wins, but for some reason, because if you're going 100% all of the time, then that's your average. That's not 100%. Does that make sense? Like that means you can actually probably give more, because average has to be what, you know, some days you give more. But So anyway, the point is the idea is the 80% rule, where it's like if you, and Seth Hood talks about this too with his diet. He's like, you don't need to eat perfect 7 days of the week. You just need to eat perfect like 80% of the time, and it'll still help you with your nutrition goals, and it'll still help you lose weight or gain weight or whatever you're trying to do. You got to eat right like 80% of the time. And so this idea of like consistency over full blitz energy has been really eking into my life, where I'm like, you know what? And then that 20% is like, hey, go eat that sugar, that 20%. That's okay. Or go or jog to the base because that's 80%. Or binge watch Game of Thrones or whatever, you know? So I think it's a cool concept that you're sharing here. Learning that balance is key, especially for us book people. We leave and it's like 100% all the time, or you're a failure. Like, shit,
It's like, what? No.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Whoa there. Oh,
yeah. It's not like you take a new role and you take your elevator up to your floor and all of a sudden everybody's like screaming and doing execs and running around the office. Although that would be pretty dope if you walked into that and you saw that.
If that's your first day.
That's your first day. They're just screaming execs in your face. Us as book people are like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. That's like an HR button for anybody else.
Yeah, everyone's like, they were talking about cold showers together. It's weird. I don't understand.
Efficiency together. Yes.
Yeah. Less water waste.
That's
better
true.
for the planet. Go green. All right, man. Let me ask you about this. You alluded to this idea of vision, and I'm speaking. Let me ask if it's okay if we could do this. Let's walk through this. Use me as an example as to how I can, apply vision. Because people talk about vision all the time, and it's always so vague. It's always like, well, you just have to have a good vision. And you're like, yeah, but what the fuck does that even mean? Well, it's got to be clear. I know, but like, how do I know? You know what I'm saying? So, do you mind if we go through something like that and get your thoughts on like ideas and things we can do, even here on the show, even if it's an example?
Totally. Absolutely.
Okay, so how does this work? And just so people understand, when this is being filmed, it's the end of the year. So this is actually timely to talk about this as we look into 2023 and what we can do with the podcast. So let's walk through it. Let's run me through like an example of what you mean by vision. Learn me some stuff.
So I think a lot of the time when people have this perception of what creating a vision is and what that looks like. And I was even interviewing a coach to potentially be a coach with us. And she was like kind of talking about how she built a vision board, and they do like vision boarding and things like that. And like they, get their magazines and cut it out. And like, first off, if you're making a vision board on magazines, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because you have to find like the absolute perfect picture. Like Google that shit. You'll find better images. But I think a lot of the time people think of the idea of vision as like, I need this Rolex, I need this big ass house. And like, that's what I'm visualizing. And like, that's good. But it's not like to the core of what's going to make you tick. Like if you're getting your ass kicked at work and you look at your vision board and you see this like beautiful, like 5,000 square foot house, I don't know about you, man, but like, that doesn't get me excited to want to like get after it and go to work again. Like that's not a core driver for me. And so
same.
Exactly. And so when it comes to the idea of like building out our vision, I think a lot of people think in this mindset. And I learned these concepts when I was selling books, and I think I built on it more with like working at consulting, but the idea of like have, do, be compared to be, do, have. And a lot of people, they live their life as like, if I have more money, or if I have more success, or if I have fancier things, then and only then can I do the things that I want to do in life. Therefore, I will be happy, or I'll be successful, I'll be competent or confident or whatever it is. And like, you're screwing yourself, because you're going to like get maybe one or two of those things, and then that's not going to be important anymore. And you have to have something else and have something else. And And then you end up in your mid 40s and, you know, have a midlife crisis. And so it's shifting that mindset of not all the things that you want to have in your life, but who you want to be and how you want to show up. And so I think a lot of visualizing the future, and yeah, it's cool to think about like things that are unrealistic and things that you could potentially have in life. And it's okay if it's a house or a new whatever, but it's who do I need to be in this present moment right now? And how do I need to work on being the best version of myself? And I think the whole intention of having a clear vision for the future is helping us be better in the present. Because like to get like weird and into our mind a little bit, the future never happens. Like the future is always going to be the future. 10 years from now is always going to be 10 years from now. And the past is always going to be the past. And they, you know, power of now, like, you know, we have fears of the future and regrets of the past, and the power is living in the present. And so the idea of having a clear vision for the future has more to do with how I need to show up right now in my current version of myself to make small little incremental deposits into being a better version of myself, because that's only serving myself in the future in 10 years. If I decide I'm not going to eat sugar or added sugar, you know, yeah, it sucks right now because I want to eat, you know, this, I had some frozen custard because my wife brought some back because she went and hung out with her parents. It's delicious. But if I did that every day, that's making my future self have to work harder. And so I think part of having a clear vision is, and why we do it and why it gets blown out of proportion, is really just to help us be the best versions of ourselves now and make sure that we're not screwing ourselves over in the future.
Oh boy. There's people that are listening to this that are probably like, he's mentioned this in the last 4 episodes in a row. But you know what? It's talking to me, so I'm going to keep doing this because not everyone's going to hear every episode. But there was this concept I saw of how if you go, so sorry for people who've heard this. I'll try to paraphrase it. If you look at the movie Back to the Future, any movie where
but I haven't heard it.
I know. So yeah, just solidifying what you're saying essentially is,
yeah,
if you look at the movie like Back to the Future, time travel movies like, you know, Avengers or whatever, Terminator, the idea is that you go back in time and you just like change one thing, and then that causes a chain reaction that completely changes the future, right? Like Marty's mom, and all of a sudden he's not born, all that stuff.
I just watched that actually.
And people, so people have no problem subscribing to that theory where it's like you change the one little thing, and then 30 years from now, 10 years from now, total difference. But if you were to tell someone right now the choices that you're making are changing the future in the exact same way, they don't believe you. Like what you're saying right now, which is the exact concept you're saying right now. Who do you need to be? What choices do you have to make right now so that in 5-10 years, the future would have been vastly changed? That if you went back in time and made that decision, it would change how you wanted to. You totally would buy it. But people don't buy it that they can do that right now. Right fucking now. You have the power to do that.
Yep.
Isn't that crazy?
So crazy. And
wonderful concept.
And it's funny, if we can think about ourselves, man, I wrote this quote somewhere. Oh, okay. If your future self 20 years from now had a conversation with you, what would they say? And I love that question, because again, like, you know, similar, like how would my future self, you know, and what I do if like the 50-year-old version of me could come back and live my life for the rest of today, like how would I live it? I'd be like, man, my wife is 20 years younger and I get to spend time, and I don't have any kids yet, but like, even if you did have kids, like it's really easy to, there you go. It's really easy to like check out and be like, man, I just had a hard day and it's so tough. But like in 20 years, what if you don't have a kid anymore? Or what if something happens to your wife? Or what if something happened? Like, you cherish that moment so much more. And so the idea of thinking about like, hey, if this was my second time living today and I didn't want to be an asshole and screw it up like I know I'm about to do right now, how would I live today, and how would I pour into others? And
Oof.
so,
Oh,
yeah,
so
man,
good.
it's
Have you seen the movie About Time?
no, what's that?
Oh, you go get it. Go snuggle up to
Wait, is this
Sarah
the
and
movie
watch
where
About
like
Time.
you Justin Timberlake?
No. Oh, no. That's Time's Up or Time something, A Story of Time.
Sounds the
No.
same. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
no. Yeah. That's also an interesting concept, that the currency of the future is through time, which is a
It's
whole
through,
different.
yeah,
I mean, that's
exactly.
also really interesting. No, About Time is kind of like a rom-com meets like but anyway, I don't know. But the point is, the men of the family in this dude's life can all go back in time to a specific memory, and they all, like, if they have that power, and so they don't tell anybody. And so it's this idea that you can go back and relive a specific day. And so this kid learns about this ability, and he tries to use it to find love, and it doesn't quite work, and then he tries to use it to blah blah blah. And so it talks about the lessons, but basically the moral of the story is what you're saying now, where he actually can go back and relive that day and do it differently, and it would change the outcome. But what he starts learning is that, and by the way, there's a part where it hits you in the dad feels, and you just cry like a little baby. It's really intense. It's not really a rom-com in that way. It's more like a psychological thing. But the point is, at the end, he starts figuring out that, why would I need to go back to in time if I can just make the most of every day right now?
Right now. Huh.
And so then he stops actually going back in time. This is not a spoiler, by the way. It's still worth the watch. And but anyway, yeah, he starts realizing, and he's narrating. He's like, actually, nowadays I don't go back in time at all, because I've learned that I can just live the best day of my life every day and just be completely happy with it. And so it's really, really cool. And the concept is phenomenal, and it's really funny. There's like a lot of really good comical stuff, but it's the mentality of it. Every time I've shown it to someone, it's like really blown their mind of the concept, because it's a little more simple than just time travel. And but the moral of the story is what you're saying right now. What if you could go back until, what if you could go back now to 20 years ago, or your future self could go back and talk to you today? What would they tell you to do? And
Right.
it's always something along the lines of, be thankful for what you have, live this day like it's your last, or like enjoy it with the people that you care about, and enjoy even the stupid moments, enjoy the arguments, enjoy the love part of it, enjoy everything that it's given to you, and don't take for granted. And when you look back, if you'd done that every day, you would look back on your life and think, wow, that was perfect. I did exactly what I wanted. And notice that at no point did they mention money, career,
Right.
status, clothes you're wearing, goals you hit or didn't hit. It had nothing to do with that.
No. Are you sure that wasn't a spoiler? You went pretty deep into the mindset of
No,
that movie.
no, it's
Okay.
no spoiler. Trust me, you'll watch it, you'll still be like, whoa, because there's like stuff that happens, and I didn't even talk about the emotional part. There's a scene in there that you're like, and it's like, yeah, it's
And you
really
did
cool.
say it was a rom-com, so there's obviously a romantic interest in
There's
the movie.
yeah. Rachel McAdams is his romantic interest, and so there's
Mhm.
like some love to it, but it's not really about, it's not like rom-com like Hitch or something like that, or The Notebook. It's not like that. It's like it's just a really interesting. It's kind of like The Invention of Lying. You ever seen that movie? Will,
No,
you've
I'm
been
gonna
watching
just
it for
keep
a while.
adding to my list from this
But it's just one of those.
podcast.
It's just more like a thought experiment, and someone like carries it out, and it's like, what would happen if this was the case? Something really simple, and you just, as you walk through the movie, you're like, wow, this is what I would do, or this, it's really good. Go watch it. Go watch it with Sarah. Get some Kleenex, because you'll cry when it gets to the dad feels part. It hurts in the heart. Anyway,
Yeah, man. And just to really lean into that, like again, I think we get so caught up in the day to day and just how we feel at the present moment. I think, of course, having a bigger vision for yourself, it makes us focus more on like the long term goals and effects. And like again, it's like compared to the short term dopamine hits, because if I don't have something to work towards, my brain wants something to like calm it. And so like the dopamine hits of, how many messages did I get, or did I score more points in Castle Crashers or whatever the, game it is. Like those dopamine hits are what like drives us. I know it's not like it hit me in the heart right there, but having kind of that clear, intentional, here's what I'm building towards, here's the type of person that I'm being, here's what my life is going to look like. Here's the relationships that I will have. My kid will be this age and I'm going to be able to do this and this and this with them. And this is how they're living their lives. It's like, and I think we all know that. And here's the challenge. We don't spend time in it. And like part of coaching is, hey, dumbass, remember that great vision that you wrote about how you want to help kids, with disabilities and open up this farm? One of my clients, that's a big goal of hers. Like, when was the last time you actually thought about a clear vision for what that is? And I like challenge all listeners. When was the last time you thought about yourself in 10 years compared to what do I need to eat for lunch and how many calls do I need to make? And like, what goals do I need to write down by the end of the year because I'm supposed to write down goals? Like that in itself, most people that sold books can build a vision and know, here's the questions that I need to ask myself. It's how often are you reviewing it and keeping it, in the front part of your mind?
Now that's an interesting thing. So back to that. So the first thing you said about building a vision is the be, do. What was it? You said instead of have, do, be, you do have. So be that way. Do the things you need to do because you're being that way, and then you'll have that vision. So be, do, have. So that's the first thing. Now let's take, maybe someone's listening to this and they want something more specific. So that's the first part. Okay. So for me, for example, the vision of the podcast or the mission of the podcast, which is different. Maybe this is important to some people, might blur these lines. So let's get into this. So for me, the mission of the podcast is to be the network for alumni of Southwestern, right? It's a very specific goal. It's a very specific mission where in the history of the company, people have tried to create alumni associations, alumni this, alumni that. So far that we know of, there's no like place you can turn to. Like if I was to ask you that, people wouldn't know. So we're trying to be that, the place where you're like, hey, where do alumni live? How it's separate from the company, so it's not pro or con. It's just more about us and what we're doing now. It's post Southwestern people. That's the mission. For the podcast division, that's where I might be drawing a blank because maybe I'm mixing the two. So how do I avoid, or what's the best thought process to go about building that? Right. For me to be is to be a good host, to be integritous with my word, to be diligent about the, schedule that we are on, recording, uploading, editing, all that stuff. So that being punctual is one. So there's my B, to just give a quick example. Now what?
Yep. Yeah. In 10 years, like, what does your day-to-day look like? What are you doing? Who are you having conversations with? Are you still running the podcast? Do you have a team of people that's running the podcast? And the podcast is just one part of what you've actually built in this alumni. Like, your mission is greater than the podcast.
Yes.
And so the idea of like looking in 10 years, how many listeners are you going to have? How many, like, what are you giving back to the world? And again, kind of going back to like, if you wake up and it's 10 years from now, what's your day look like? Who are you serving, helping, operating?
I can answer now. This is great because
let's just dive into it. Yeah. Like in 10 years, like what's a typical day look like for Andres Gamboa? And the best way to think about this is to not even try to think rationally at all. Because again, the whole,
that helps.
We overestimate what we can do in a year, and we way underestimate what's possible in 10 years. So take all of the logical, like, well, if I grow at 20%, no, fuck that. Like, be as, don't make it logical. Look into the future in 10 years. Like, what does this look like? What are we doing?
Are you talking about me personally or what the podcast, or both? I guess both.
Yeah, both. Both of them are good to think about.
So I guess me personally, if I could have it my way, where like what would be the ideal goal for this? Unicorn Podcast, which is our podcast production side of things, would have grown to have so many people and so many clients that we have an entire division of Ponytails just building out podcasts for people, whether that be video editing, sound producing, helping them strategize it. It's now a full functioning. I don't even know. I'm not going to put money dollar signs to it because I don't really know, to be honest with you. But the idea that like my job with that and my ideal role for people who want me to be a host of their show is my day looks like this. I look at my calendar, I go, oh, cool, I get to host this podcast about whatever, Then I host Ponytails because I'm meeting up with another alumni today, which is really cool. And then so I have 4 episodes to record for 4 different podcasts, and that's my day. Right? Where it's just like that's all I do for work is just host, because I have people working on editing, I have people doing marketing, I have people doing fan management. We have people working on Bizzler already, where I don't have to like worry about it. The company itself is being maybe operated and ran by somebody smarter than me, which is not hard to find. But my skill in being able to talk to people and the joy that I get from that, that's all I get to do is I just host podcasts because people pay me to, because I've proven myself.
Yeah.
That's personally. The podcast, what would be cool is if we've gathered enough alumni's attention and listening and viewership and loyal following, that we are able to divide into sections and or orgs, for the lack of a better word, where, for example, every alumni in the Atlanta area, every alumni in the Omaha area, Chicago, Denver, every major city, essentially, where alumni are gathered in numbers, is a chapter, I guess, of the Alumni Association. We have a person that is volunteering to kind of be like the president of that chapter. And we actually have like an actual structure for an association that meets regularly. And its mission is to provide all of the things, all of the networking, from anything as simple as, hey, we have someone who wants to hire a salesperson 4 summers or more, certain number of units or more, or certain number of recruits or more, looking for this position, and we can easily network that in and out, and it's self-sustaining from people maybe paying into it, pouring into it. I don't know. Also, maybe it's like, hey, something happened in Ukraine and we need to raise money, so we're going to create a tournament for who can raise the most money. We're going to first put Pat Roche, who's our chapter member or president in Chicago, versus Steve Hurley in Atlanta, and it's going to be a single elimination for a week, however much you can raise in a week. You move on to the next round, and it turns out we raised $1 million for people in Ukraine who need the help, and we can like come together as a powerful alumni community to just do it and change the world in a way. That'd be cool. I think it also would be fun to have a really, like, we have so many people wanting to go to Bizzler that we have to have Bizzler in like a multiple week system, where it's like Bizzler 1, 2, and 3 of the year, because there's just so many people coming. We just don't have enough rooms for everyone. So it's like the first, second, and third week of Bizzler, kind of like that we have different alumni come talk and share and connect and network again. We could have a cool way of like doing couch surfing, where it's like, here's the people who volunteer up a couch and someone's traveling through whatever, so that you can use our network to plan their trip around. That'd be kind of fun, that kind of stuff. So just to have like a really solid, healthy, organic alumni network that's actually functioning and is wanting to be found and is wanting to be part of a bigger deal and a bigger mission and compete and raise awareness for causes and be united in the way that they, and the experience, because of the experience that we shared. That's my vision for what we can do as podcast. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business, specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy.
That's
So-
okay. And actually, and this is good to, I had Nick kind of explain this a little bit too, but because I've been in the insurance industry before, for people who are listening, like, how do you make 115% commission?
Like, the way I explain it to people is the insurance companies we represent. So we're a broker. All these companies we work with, they know they're not really going to be making any money off the sales that I make for the first several years, but they don't care
Right.
about that. They know these clients are going to be on the books for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So they know they're going to make money over the long haul. And so part of the reason agents are able to make so much is there's all these companies out here and they're all competing for the broker's business, because these companies don't actually have their own in-house sales force. They have independent contractors. And so if their compensation or their commission levels that they offer aren't competitive, I'm not going to place any business with them.
Hello, off schedule moment. Wanted to tell you about Southwestern Real Estate. They're 99% drama free, only 99, not 99.9. So it's a bit spicy, kind of like this episode. Anyway, they will learn you to kick ass at real estate. So make sure you guys click the link below, get in touch with them. Okay, back to work. Bye. That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show.
So and I love that. And I'm like nerding out over here. What a lot of people miss, Andres, is they might know that, but then are they reviewing it? Are they thinking about it? Are they, in a sense, putting out there in the world? And like, that's what you're doing right now. You literally just spoke into what this podcast is going to be in 10 years. And you can have this podcast re-air in 10 years.
Yeah.
And like the idea of like, okay, I'm proclaiming this is where I'm going to be in 10 years. And then continuing to have that as like, okay, I've spoken that into existence. This is where I'm going. Have you heard of Mr. Beast?
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's
okay.
a legend. Yeah.
He is a legend, and he's got some crazy, crazy goals. One of the things, there's a book that I'm reading right now where Mr. Beast, basically, he made his decision. He did a series of, was it 1, 2, 3, 4? He did 4 videos. Each lasted about 2 minutes, and you can actually go back and watch this. He spoke to his future self 6 months into the future. Okay. Second video, he talks to himself 12 months into the future. Then he does one where it's 5 years into the future, and then 10 years into the future. And he scheduled them to air on his YouTube and those specific times. And you can go back and watch like how he was acting and what he was doing. And like, you can see his swagger and confidence change. And one of the things that he talks about, like, this is so fascinating. One of the things he says, even in the video, he goes, if I don't have 1 million subscribers when you see this video, my entire life has been a failure. I hope I have 1 million subs. I better have 1 million subs. That's what he says.
And for context, for people listening who might not know who that is, Mr. Beast was is a YouTube viral sensation, and he started like 12, 13 years ago, and he was like 14, just putting videos on YouTube, kind of like what podcasting is now, where nobody really knew the power of it. People were still like, podcast, what is that? It's an app. Like the same place that YouTube was. And of course, now we know, I mean, he's dropping millions of dollars to produce videos that basically everything he makes, he puts back, and they do some crazy, he gives away like Lamborghinis. He gives away like, there's an episode he did with Joe Rogan that I was listening to. I'm like, this is bananas, like how he built it. And like, so just for context, so sorry, keep going. This is fascinating.
So I pulled up a video, his last video. When did he post this? Like a week ago or something like that. It doesn't say actually. It's hydraulic press versus Lamborghini. And so he just buys this fancy Lamborghini, puts it in the hydraulic press, and I'm assuming he smashes it, and people want to watch that. At the time of his 5-year video where he said, and he spoke this into existence, I want to have 1 million subscribers. At the time that video was released, he had 82 million subscribers. And so just this idea of
wow,
building like I'm speaking this into existence. This is where I'm going to be and how I'm going to build it. Like, you can literally do the same thing. And the more you think about, like, man, our podcast listeners, our podcast donors are like helping raise money for Ukraine, and we're doing that on a international scale. The more you can continue to think about it here in the now, our endurance is directly tied to the clarity of our vision. Our endurance in pushing through whatever it is, running, building a podcast, building a business, it's directly tied to how clear we can see that vision.
Bro, that's so cool. That is fascinating, bro. Whoa.
Yeah, there's and again, we know this. Like, I guarantee if you're listening to this, you probably know the importance of having a vision, but is it an actual vision that you can close your eyes and see? Do you read it every day? Are you thinking about it? Does it include more than just, I want a sweet Lamborghini? Like, it's got to be how you're living your life and how you're impacting others and how you're impacting the world. The more it has to do with other people, the greater it's going to have you're going to have a higher impact on yourself if it has more to do with others than just, I need to serve myself and I need to have a little bit more money and I need to have a fancier house or car or whatever it is.
That's so cool, bro. That's super cool. All right, so that's my vision. There I am. That's what I'm looking in 10 years. Now what?
Dude, don't overcomplicate it. Like, write it down. And again, there's like a million questions that you can ask yourself that I think people should go through. And I'd be happy to throw, there's like this 20 what's to find your why, like 20 questions. Happy to send it to anybody that wants it. And it's just 20 questions for you to like think about your deeper self and where you want to be and what that's going to be and what that's going to create. And don't overcomplicate it. Like, write it out, get it on paper, get it to where you're either reading it or you see pictures of it, and review that shit every day. Look at it, make that a routine. Like, just like going to the bathroom, part of your routine should be looking at a clear vision for where you're going in the future.
I'm going to put it in front of my toilet.
Dude,
it's like I say, sit down.
Do it.
You got to poop every day, right?
I have a client that is going to be the future Andy Versella, First Form guy, has this like multi-million-dollar business. And he has his vision that he's written out and gotten really deep into. And he has it on his door going into his room. And then he made another copy when he's leaving his room. So every time he leaves his bedroom or goes into his bedroom, he sees it. And some people are like, yeah, my spouse would hate me if I had all these pictures and affirmations thrown around the house. But, it's putting it in a place where you actually see it and spending time even thinking about it. I think a lot of the time, and if I'm getting like too in the weeds here, stop me.
No,
but
this is great. No, I'm like writing all this down, bro.
So I think, even I challenged a client every day for 5 minutes, pick a specific part of your vision and just brainstorm and brain dump on a piece of paper and think about like, okay, I'm thinking about what my relationship with my kids is going to be like. I'm thinking about relationship with my spouse. I'm going to take 5 minutes and think about what my day could potentially look like. Because what that does is it helps break through that mindset of what's rational and what's realistic. If you're just brain dumping every day for 5 minutes about your future self in 10 years or what the Ponytails podcast is going to be for 10 years, you're going to have some crazy good ideas that just come out of just dumping on paper. And it gets you excited because, again, if we're not excited about the future, we're dying in the present. And we're dealing with like, oh, I got all these things that I need to do for work that I need to tackle. It's like, man, no, that's not important.
Bro, you're good at your job, man. You're like, whoa.
I get fired up talking about this, man. Like I
This is
spent a whole
great.
day doing work and like talking about literally this exact same thing. Cause guess what everybody's doing right now? They're planning out their 2023. What are their goals? What does that look like? And then I get to come hang out with you and talk about the exact same thing and have some delicious Woodford Reserve double oaked as you choke on whatever else you're drinking. That's just a perfect advertisement for Woodford Reserve.
Guys,
Yeah.
Woodford, if you're listening, there's gotta be. We try to keep all our sponsorships to alumni. So I need an alumni that distills whiskey.
I'm guessing that's a thing. We'll find
Somebody's
one.
gotta
I'm
be,
into it.
right?
Yeah.
Because damn, we're already gonna be. I don't know if we're announcing this yet, but there's a. Actually, no, I can't because this episode would have already aired. But Orange Talks with Dave Rosen, who's in cannabis.
Oh yeah.
It's a sponsor. Yeah.
Oh man, I love that. Dave Rosen is like a legend in my brain.
He is.
I'm sure he's just another dude that, you know, poops the exact same way as we do.
Sometimes
But
painful, yeah.
you know, but he is a legend like that. Those were the CDs that we listened to. Selling books was like Zizzy and Rosen.
That's it. That's like the best advanced sales. All right, hold on. Any more final thoughts on vision because this is a good, this would be a great transition into some Southwestern stuff, which would prompt more really cool nuggets of wisdom. But any final thoughts before we take this ramp off?
Man, we can ramp off. I think that's enough of a soapbox on building out why having a vision is important.
Honestly, that was great. What we might have to do is cut some of these and then post them on our YouTube separately and then tag you in them or whatever. So you can share these because I also think that you need to start your own podcast. And that's a conversation. If you guys think that Will Metscher needs his own podcast, maybe comment below or send us a DM so we can convince him.
I'm building a future series of videos that will go on YouTube, like 5-minute videos specifically on certain topics. And
my God, we can do your SEO. Just let us help you.
Let's go, man. Collab.
Dude, let's do it. I'm in there like swimwear. Okay, let me pour some more whiskey because I just went down the wrong pipe. Man, when whiskey goes down the wrong pipe, it's mean.
Yeah, you're not gonna have a good day.
It's it takes all day to have a bad one, but that was a good setback. Okay. Dude, Southwestern shit. I don't really know if I remember much of this story, and maybe you did tell it, but it's good to get reminded, and plus the people won't go back. But let's rewind the clock. How the hell did you get into Southwestern in the first place? How did you get recruited?
So it's kind of a funny story, as I'm sure they all are.
Yeah.
It's like that's how it's not. I don't know. Maybe for me, just knowing all the people that I know sold books, like it's never like just a very normal story. It's always like, oh, and then I heard about this from this guy that was like drunk one night at a bar, and then he invited me out, and like Dan has a pretty funny story as far as how he learned about selling books from me, Daniel Bercaguero. But anyway, freshman year, my best friend and his girlfriend, his now wife, had heard about Southwestern, heard about knocking on doors, and they like decided to do it. They're like, I'm doing this. I'm going to go knock on doors. And I remember hearing, and I was talking to my buddy, and I'm like, wait, they told you you're going to make how much money? 8,000? Okay. Yeah, man. I'm going to be taking psychology this summer. So it's going to be great partying. Yeah. And so like, I was like slowly recruiting myself. And then Anthony Merkel called me up. I vividly remember where I was, had a conversation with him, and I even gave him the excuse like, hey, sorry, Anthony, I've heard really good things from my buddies, but I'm taking summer school. And like, to his credit, he was like, man, that's great. And you probably should do that, but at least come hear about this because your buddies are going to be doing it over the summer and you could maybe do it next. And I was like, Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Like, what's the harm
Fair
in
enough.
that? And so, you know, I go and I just get sucked into the excitement of like, oh man, like I get to make money. And I'm like making money. And then there's Sizzler. I get to go to Mexico. And then like,
I
and
love
I'm like,
Mexico.
oh, okay, that
Love
sounds great.
tacos.
Yeah, I love tacos. Never been out of the country. And so anyway, I get done with the info session and I like call my parents and like tell them like, this is what I'm doing this summer. I'm dropping all my summer school classes, like deuces. And, you know, of course they weren't as excited about that. But no, and then I really did. Like when Anthony was like, on a scale of 1 to 10, like, where are you? I'm like, I'm a 14. And I think I said that like every interview because I really was. I'm like, this sounds really stupid and it's going to kick my ass and it's going to be really hard. Like, I should probably do that. And that's how like my brain has lived its life. Like we can talk about some of these hilarious runs that we're going to be doing here in the next couple months. But my two friends that both recruited me, both were like, come do this thing. They both quit the first week. I don't even think it was the second day. I think it was the first day. They were like, this is too hard. I can't do this. I'm out. And my friend, his now wife, I think, you know, in all fairness, she was the one that was like, I'm leaving. If you want to stay with me, you need to come with me. And so he's like,
he made the right choice.
He made the right choice. They're married. They got 2 kids, like great dude, you know, but I think at the time he did regret it. And then, you know, I'm going to do this for one summer and like get all my experience. And then I get to like hang out, get you again. And you're like, well, you got all the sales experience, but do you have any leadership experience? And I'm like, shit, no. And so again, 9 years later, and technically still with the company, like they'll get you, they'll suck you in.
It's Kool-Aid is sweet. Dude, how do you remember? Where did you go that first summer? What was like your first summer like? What was Lowell like? Because I remember you had an afro, right? Is what you?
I had an afro right before I sold books.
Is there a picture of this that you could send me that I can put on the screen?
For sure, there was a picture of my hilarious afro. And it was like one of those dumb high school decisions, like, okay,
I think it'd be cool to get sideburns and an afro. Like
I'm gonna get an afro. That sounds great. And then I'm not gonna date until I cut it. It's great.
I'm gonna not meet women. Yeah, I'm not gonna be interesting to women for a while. Let's get an afro.
My romantic relationships did not improve from growing an afro. Like, surprising that I said, oh man, there's some good pictures on here.
Is this your Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, bro, I could just pull up your Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, you can just go to my profile and it's like all the way at the end, my first couple pictures.
I got it. I'll log in here. Anyway, as we're doing this, so talk to me about, I always like to ask about what the first sales school experience was like, where you went that summer, and like your first store, first week, like all of those firsts as you're going through, because those are the funniest things to call back on and remember. So first of all, what was sales school like?
Terrifying. And like, I think I put everyone on a pedestal. I was like, this Dan Moore guy is God. And, you know, and he is close to, if there's anybody in the world that's close to him, I think Dan Moore is an incredible human, but
it goes Jesus, you know, and then Dan, maybe.
And then Dan, exactly. But I was terrified. I'm like, I got to do everything right or I'm screwed this summer. And like, Merkel did a good job of building the importance of like what I put into sales school is directly proportional to what I get out, you know, when I'm selling books. And so I took it really seriously and was like locked in. And I'm like, if we're running this hill, I'm going to die before losing to that dude over there. Like, I'm getting to the top of that hill. And so, and it worked. Like I was so driven and focused in sales school. Oh man, that's such a good picture. And think about that guy coming and knocking on the door. Like it was a good thing that I cut my hair.
Brutal, man.
Oh, all the way
That
back
you
to
on the
high
right?
school. Oh
Oh, so
yeah,
this
for
is high school.
sure. Rocking
Oh
the
my God, Metscher, what are you wearing, bro?
yeah. Oh, so good. So good.
We're an hour and 9 minutes in if you want to turn it into a video and watch this, because this is so funny, dude. Okay, so this kid is going, I'm going to go sell books. Oh my gosh. I wonder, you know how on the other end, when you look at like a first year that's wanting to come and be in the interview process, and you look at him, you're like, what is this kid?
No. And you're like, no.
Like
This kid,
this kid is
no.
sharp enough to come sell books? No, look at that face, bro. That's so bad, dude.
It's like traumatizing, bringing some of these memories back.
Oh,
You're like
Taylor,
not even
bro.
in the profile pictures. You're in like these are still on my Facebook, huh? This is good.
Are these stories for Bizzler? Or look at this lovely lady. Look at that. There you go.
Oh yeah. My friend Ashley Chansey. She sold books for like 8 weeks and then quit.
Good. Good for her.
Good for her. Yeah, still kicking it with her.
Anyway, okay, so sorry. So sales school's intimidating. You meet all these other sharp people. I remember the thought of like for the first time I wasn't the sharpest person in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely some of that, and like
not the first time, but for it's been a while since I like looked around and there was like 800 other people who were like better from a standpoint of
super motivated.
I thought I did a lot. They did way more.
Totally. And like I was like IV to, like soaking it all in. I'm like, give me the Kool-Aid, put it directly into my veins. Let's
dip it in
go.
water.
Like just dump some Kool-Aid on me. And it helped. And so like rolling into my first day, like I was again, just like everybody else, terrified, didn't know, like, but I knew like there's no way that I'm going to quit today. And there's no, like, I'm going to drag myself to 30 plus doors and go talk to random humans and see what happens. And I'd love to say I remember like the exact door, and I do remember the exact door. I don't remember what happened outside of she's like, I'm getting my kids ready for school. Like, and I don't even think she said come back later. She's like, I'm getting my kids ready for school, and then like slam the door. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. And then like run off. But, and I don't know, like I like stumbled upon people that wanted to buy. And my first day, I remember like I knocked on this door of this like grandma, and she's like, oh, Southwestern? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, I tell you what, you're selling books, right? You got some of those books? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, you got stuff to help out with homework? And I'm like drooling at this point. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, come on in. Like I got my grandkids here and my daughter, and I should buy her some books. Let me see what you got. And I was like, okay. And like still like first sit down. This is my first sit down ever. And so like I literally remember sitting down, and she was like, and she like pulls her checkbook out, and she's like, okay, so like how much are they? And I remember being like, so I'm supposed to say these words. Can I say them first? And she's like, oh yeah, honey, sorry. And then like sets her checkbook aside and just like sits there like listening. And I'm like, okay. And then I go through my introduction.
God, dude.
And I remember like get to the end, and she was like, yeah, I'm still gonna buy. So how much are they? And then like that was my first customer. And so, and obviously that ruined the rest of that week, because I'm like waiting for them to like say like Southwestern, right? Come on in. And like I think I accidentally sold an Ask Me Why, because I like stumbled through a presentation at the door, and this lady was like, so you're selling these? Okay, how much are they? And like, yeah, I got to go to work. Let me write you a check. And so I had 2 customers my first day, but then I think that gave me some confidence. and probably some stupid blind confidence because I was like, oh, that was easy. Like first day, 2 customers, let's keep going. And then
It
you know,
works.
it works. And then you get your teeth kicked in for the rest of that week and realize that like you actually have to do your job and ask questions and like be intentional and persistent. So
Read the room and all this stuff. Yeah.
yeah, actually learn the job and actually learn how to sell. And so for sure, that was my first day.
Where were you again? Oh, sorry, the territory?
I was in Connecticut. I was in,
Connecticut.
it was like Stafford or I can't remember, but I lived in Cranston, Rhode Island. And then I would just drive over to Connecticut, and it was like that first little territory. And man, I loved it. And I loved the East Coast people and how straightforward and like, you know, what you got and like, I'm all set. And remember that like the no's from different parts of like the US, they change.
Yeah.
What is it? So I never sold on the West Coast, so I don't know how they tell you no. But East Coast is we're all set. And the South is whatever words coming out of their mouth. But I appreciate you. Like we got everything covered for
appreciate
something, but I appreciate you. And you're like, that's them trying to
no.
be nice. That's like, I'm trying to be nice to you and say no, but I don't know actually how to say no. And so it was like total mindfuck going and selling in the South because they're like, what do I say? They didn't actually say no. Like, I don't know what to do. And like, did you ever sell on the West Coast?
No, it's all New England for me. But
do you know how they said no?
No. We'd have to ask like a European or some red line person because they sold up here.
Some red line. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
But living here, I imagine it's something like they probably are more the just mellow somewhere in the middle, like not interested. They'll be like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. They'll probably say something like that.
Do you think they like slowly close the door without actually slamming the door? Or?
Well, I did sell solar door to door in Arizona for a week, and it was that. It was more like, no, and they just close the door. But Arizona in July, it was the most brutal thing I've ever done in my life. Like from a standpoint in sales and business, that's the hardest I've ever worked. I mean, I worked hard in Southwestern, but bro, it was 122 degrees. I Googled hottest place on earth on those days, and I'm like thinking like somewhere in the Middle East, and there were some of those, but like at the time that I was Googling it, currently Tempe, Arizona, and I was like, I'm in Tempe right now. I am out of water and here.
You have like people butt sweat at like 7 a.m.
But you have butt sweat. It's just butt sweat. You don't ever not have it. It's just you just have it.
That's just how you live your life.
I was living with Taverdi for the week, and his AC was broken, and so the low at night was like 95. And we were,
that's miserable.
You have to sleep with the windows open in that case, because like, what are you going to do? So
yeah,
it was, I mean, I'm telling you, like we just, I mean, you showered and it didn't matter. It did not matter.
Yeah.
That you
showered. That's more for the smell. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to get rid of some of the smell.
Because you still smell like it by the time you get out of the shower, put on fresh clothes, and then you go outside for 4 or 5 minutes, you're just sweating again. It looks like it's a workout, dude. I don't even know how we did that even for a week. And people who go sell there, I don't know, like Southwestern people that go sell, I'm like, I don't know how you guys do that, man. That is crazy. Like I was in Vermont, bro. It snowed in May. Like I sold in the snow. Like no big deal.
I mean, I sold in Louisiana, and it was humid.
Dude, that's a different kind of heat. Jesus.
It was a very different kind of heat. And just again, like dealing with the chafing and
it's impossible.
Yeah,
people do that. People who like
that's a fun story.
I want to know. Yeah, we'll get to that. So I want to know because Q sold 10,000 units in Louisiana, right?
I sold close to that.
Yeah, and you did too, right? You guys both were up
Yeah.
there. I remember that some of you guys were competing. That has to be as impressive as somebody selling 15 to 20 on in Seattle or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just not
It's
as hot.
totally.
And that fucks
And
with you, bro.
it totally does. It's a different kind of like challenge that you're running into. Like selling in the South, people are super friendly. Sometimes education isn't, and again, this is a very large stereotype, but isn't as important if you look at the state ratings. But then that's what we
it's
leaned
not.
on.
Massachusetts, it's the most important, and then
Right.
Louisiana, it's probably like the least important. If
But
there was
that's
a
what we
51st
leaned
state,
on,
they would
though.
be them. Yeah.
That's what you lean on is like people know that like the education system isn't the best and there's not as much money flowing in. And so like people are like, yes, education is really important to me, whether they mean it or not. Like they're like, because our schools aren't great, and so it was a different, like in Massachusetts, if you ask like, why is education so important to you? They're like, look at you like you're an asshole. Like,
Yeah.
what do you, that's not next question,
Yeah,
like it was just kind of like, get out of here.
You're wasting my time. Yeah, you almost avoided that question. Like in certain neighborhoods in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, you're like, I'm not going to ask that because the best high schools in the country are here. Like, might as well just. That's why we live here. It's like that's what they would tell you.
Yes.
We moved to this town because Phillips Exeter and Andover is here, which is where the Kennedys go to school. Like, oh,
yeah, yep, true.
Got it. It's crazy. Dude, that's hilarious. And it sounds like you didn't get off to like the hottest of hot starts from this, like you weren't selling PC week one.
No. So I didn't hit PC until my fourth summer.
Really?
And I think
that's amazing.
Yeah, it took 4 summers for me to hit PC, and then my fourth summer I hit it. I think like 10 times. And like best was like 902 and then a couple 800s. And so it was just, it kind of just clicked going into my fourth summer. It was like a slow progression. The first 3.
What happened?
Belief. It was totally just a pure belief in myself thing and just taking ownership and, to put it lightly, just having a bigger vision of what was actually possible and then starting to believe that. And I don't know if it was just like a slow progression for me and it took 4 summers to actually start believing some of the goals and the vision for what I created. But it was just totally like you kind of hit this level of confidence that I just didn't have my first 3 summers. And, you start to see things the way that you have visualized it, and you start to ignore the things that are less important when it comes to selling. And so like I would ignore some of the obstacles or objections that I would normally just be like, oh, well, they're not going to sit down right away, so I'm erasing them as a possible customer. I would start to ignore some of those obstacles, and I'd only pay attention to the things that really followed through with the vision and goals of how I saw like the sit down going. And so when it's similar to the law of attraction, there's like a different term for this. But you start paying attention to the things that are in alignment with what your vision is. And so I just had a bigger, deeper, more exciting vision that summer. And I had Andy Laws as a roommate. So like that didn't suck. And it was fun going home every day to him and Luke. But it was just a belief of here's what I'm building and here's what it looks like. And I actually believe this is what's going to happen.
So what is that called? The Raksha? No, what? There's the phenomenon, the recency bias is what that's called. Isn't that what it's called?
There is, yeah, the recency bias.
Is that
like what?
what you're talking about? Where it's like if you're looking for, do you know what I'm talking about? Where you buy a Prius and you've never seen a Prius before, and you think you're the only
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
and then also you see Priuses everywhere or whatever the hell whoever buys.
I don't think that's called recency bias, but that is like, and maybe it is. I don't know, but that's exactly it. It's like you buy a Prius and all of a sudden you're like, man, there's Priuses everywhere. It's like, no, they weren't everywhere. You just start to actually pay attention and see those because that's what you're thinking about. And that's how it always works. Like, all of a sudden you start paying attention to things that are in alignment with your thoughts. And then you start to believe those things and start to look for those things, and it starts to happen in reality.
Well, let me dig deeper here, because I never got this. I mean, for me it was backwards. My summers were always backwards. I had great first summers and then terrible last 2 summers. So I never understood this. I never have gotten this concept until, actually, to be completely transparent with you, this podcast, where like the belief of the vision I was sharing with you earlier, I get that now. But if you were to ask me like why this and why now that happened to me, I'd have to really sit and think, and I haven't done that. So let me ask you. Let's think. It's not so
Like, why this and why now? Like, why is this?
Why not your
blowing
5th
up
summer and
now?
why not your 3rd summer? Like, what happened to you? Was it trauma? Something changed? You get broken up with, and you're like, I'm going to be a better man. Like, what happened to you?
Dude,
it could have happened.
yeah.
Why didn't it happen your 5th summer, and why didn't it happen the 2nd summer going in? What the hell happened?
Yeah, I think a big thing that happened was I like thought I had like this dream girl, and it like the coolest story ever. Like, we met in a taxi cab on New Year's because I got drunk and like kicked out of this bar, and I end up like stumbling my way into this taxi, and I meet this girl and end up like going and partying her with that night, and then we end up dating. And she was like way above my league, and so I'm like building this confidence going into that summer, and then right before I left for sales school, she broke up with me. And so it was like, oh, this building of confidence, and then it like fire of doom. And it took a little bit of coaxing, but it was kind of like, I'm going to prove what I'm capable of, and I'm going to prove like what I'm here for. And so it was like a combination of that, and then wanting to prove. I talked to some Tom James people at like this conference that I went to, Tom James, where they sell custom suits. It used to kind of be a sister company, still associated. And they had said something about like, yeah, well, the people that come and work with us, like, they hit President's Club. And I was like, oh, I haven't done that. And so it was like getting broken up with, like somebody basically saying, I don't believe in you. And then on the opposite side, somebody was like, I do believe in you. You'd be incredible working here at Tom James. You should go hit President's Club, was basically that message that I had. So it was like positive motivation and like negative motivation, like kicking myself in the butt and like, I'm doing this. Like I'm doing this. I'm doing this podcast. Like, there's nothing that's going to stop me. This is what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden it was like, I don't care what obstacle is in my way. We're just going to make it happen. I probably have. I shouldn't say never. I don't make that connection that often of like what caused that weird anomaly of a summer to blow up and like for all the things to happen.
That's cool.
Mind blown. Thanks, Andres.
I'm just doing my job.
Yeah.
As a friend and as a host.
That is true. I appreciate that.
And so it's not often that, because we don't really give a shit about units here, although you are your units, obviously.
You are your units. Yep.
Every time, obviously, 100%. No question. But it's not often that I have, actually, I've kind of been blessed this season with top producers. So we started out with Dave Rosen. We started with Dave Rosen, and then it was like Pat Roach, Todd McWhorter, and Jake Chesney was episode 2, and then Naomi, and now you. So
I don't even
actually, it's been only like top producers.
Yeah.
So, but that's not often, and because we don't care about that. We just want to hear people's experiences. But I want to pick your brain a little bit about continued growth, right? Because then you didn't stop there. I mean, you went from then that fourth summer was good. How do you, how do you bust loose? How did you bust loose? You hit PC, so that's you jumped up an echelon or a level. Cool, good job. You sold what, 4,000 or 5,000 units that summer?
Yeah.
4. Cool. But then you go and sell like
I think
9,
it was,
almost 10
yeah.
or whatever. So like
Si-
that's still a jump. That's like a next level jump. What happened between those summers and what clicked in that regard? And really, I have this theory. Maybe you can answer this for me as you're thinking about this. I have this theory that the difference between, and I've said this before in the show, you don't accidentally sell 4,000 units just as much as you don't accidentally sell 400 in a week or 150 in a day or 100 in a day. Like you could get lucky one time and like hit a pony, like 2 ponies in the same week, and all of a sudden you hit 350 units and that was your best week. But you can't accidentally hit PC. You have to be doing something right to be hitting PC, right? In the same way that you don't accidentally hit 5,000 units in a summer. You don't get that lucky all for 12 weeks. So there's something that was intentional about that. My theory is that then that's something that you find out. My theory is that the jump from like 400 units to 1,000 or 5,000 units to 10,000 over the summer, or is really not that big. It's just like one tweak or one flip of the switch, and then you just do everything else the same and it just clicks. Am I right on this? I never did that, so I don't know. But that was always been my theory, because I have hit 700 units in a week, and I've had some big weeks like that. And if I was to think like, what did I do different when I was doing 200 units versus when I hit 700? I'm like, not really that much different. I just remember like to not care what people thought of me at the door, and that's was the difference for me. So I guess because you experienced both that middle level of like 4,000 to 6,000 units, and then you jumped up again and hit like the top echelon relatively, right? What were those differences, or is it that big of a difference, or what did you find there?
It's not a huge difference. And it does go back to kind of the belief and vision thing. There's this concept called prospection. And it's like how we view things. And so I'm like doing a keynote speech on this in a couple weeks, and just everything we do is driven by prospects of like the future. And so all human action and behavior is driven by goals. And so every human interaction or every action has a purpose. And another word for purpose is goal. And so all human action is goal driven, even if the goal or the behavior isn't consciously considered by the individual. And so, a little bit of knowledge. And again, give credit where credit's due. There's this book called Be Your Future Self Now. And I'm like devouring this book. It's really powerful. But to connect it to that summer, I think I went from like 6,000 to 9,000 units. I didn't think I could sell. And this goes back to like more like that first year that went out and thought he would sell 400 units. He didn't think he was going to sell 400 units. He thought he was going to sell 800 units. And so, that was kind of like, again, that was a thought of mine. I'm like, I'm going to sell 12,000 units this summer, and this is what I'm going to do in order to get there. And it just created a belief that was like, this is what's going to happen. And I started to visualize, and I knew like where I was going to be selling in Louisiana. And I was like visualizing Sunday meetings with Brandon Q and how hilarious that would be. And, Maggie Dietzel and some of these old like Northern Iowa kids.
Maggie. I love
Maggie. She's so great. And then Chris Q and just all these guys. And so I was like getting excited about that. And then I was excited about the fact that I was going and selling in Louisiana. And I'm like, these people are going to be hilarious and great and super. And I was like, I was just so consciously curious about those people that I would go into the day, like just with this giant curiosity of like, how can I serve and help these people? And so like my mindset was shifted during the day of like, man, I hope they don't say no. It's like, I got to find the coolest people here and help them with their kids' education. And so that belief just It was a little bit of a switch, but that switch took years to develop that belief of actually putting it into action.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in the spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. That's okay. And actually, and this is good to, I had Nick kind of explain this a little bit too, but it's because I've been in the insurance industry before. For people who are listening, like, how do you make 115% commission?
The way I explain it to people is the insurance companies we represent. So we're a broker. All these companies we work with, they know they're not really going to be making any money off the sales that I make for the first several years, but they don't care about that. They know these clients are going to be on the books for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So they know they're going to make money over the long haul. And so part of the reason agents are able to make so much is there's all these companies out here, and they're all competing for the broker's business, because these companies don't actually have their own in-house sales force. They have independent contractors. And so if their compensation or their commission levels that they offer aren't competitive, I'm not going to place any business with them.
Yo, let's get off schedule one last time. Go watch a movie, or maybe you should figure out how to work at EnLight.Energy. Alex Black is crushing it down there, and a former DSM, Julio Hernandez, are both running this company. And man, they are cranking 10 people on their team and growing. It's enough that Alex only has to sell like one thing every other week and make over 6 figures. So if you want to learn more about that and maybe help change the planet, click on the link below. That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show.
And again, did you have, it sounds like this one was more gradual. It wasn't like as dramatic as that breakup where you're like, well, it was more like intentional. So that's a key distinction, right? This is a lesson right there to learn, even for anybody who's taking notes, is one, sometimes it'll happen where it's like something happens in your life, good or bad. And in this case, you decided to take a heartbreak, really, and go, you know what, fuck this. I'm better than this, moving forward, which is huge.
Yeah.
And that speaks to like attitude, decision-making, choice, and how you look at something that's difficult, right? We could spend a whole episode on that. But then this time around, you noticed that there was a gap in what you wanted to achieve, and you said, I'm going to just make little tweaks from maybe your schedule to how you prep. It sounds like preparation was huge in this, right?
Oh, yeah.
That eventually you manifested it. Like, you can't. Now, there is such a thing as over preparing, so we can also talk about a little bit of that. But like in your head, you set yourself down, you pictured what you wanted. Everything happens twice, once in your head, once in real life, right? And you intentionally gravitated towards doing those specific things. And in Southwestern, it's great because they give you what those things are, right? You have a schedule, your recruiting schedule, if you're getting your names, all that shit. Maybe abstract version. What are some ways that we can do that in today's world? Maybe for me on the show, or maybe for something that you've shared with one of your clients where you're like, this person is the equivalent of a 5,000 unit producer here. They can be a 10,000 unit producer, or the equivalent of that in their industry. How do you manage and coach them towards that intentionality?
Consistency.
I love that word.
To keep it like really simple, I think a lot of us get caught up into like goals compared to tweaking and changing habits, because we're all driven. Like, there's so many books out there on habits. We're all driven by a form of a creation of a habit in some way every single day. And like, 90% of what we do throughout the day is really already, we're on autopilot. And so making small incremental tweaks, and whenever I talk about like shifting our goals, those little incremental tweaks that we do to slowly improve ourselves it builds. And so it's kind of like these little confidence anchors that we're building throughout the day, every single day, in what we create. And so what I do is I'll normally have people build certain goals. And then with those goals, we build habits around what those habits are going to do to get you to those goals. And whether that is a certain number or a certain tweak, or I'm going to read this in the morning, or do this or do that. Like, we get so fearful of like hitting that goal that we forget about like, what's the first fucking step that I can take that's going to get me to that next step, that gets me to that next step, that gets me that next step. And so I had a guy that was like, man, I really want to get into the gym, but I just don't like going to the gym. And, you know, and like, I just, you know, he kept telling me on each call, like, I just need to get to the gym. And it's like, okay, well, go to the gym. This was like early on in coaching, where that was like my coaching, just go do it. You know, I'm kidding. It wasn't that bad. Oh, you need more help picking up the phone? Okay, let's go pick up the phone more. Yeah, you good? High five, like rock and roll.
You did it.
I'm kidding, of course, if my leaders are watching me. But I like, we just made us, okay, yeah, it's tough to go to the gym. And like, that's a big jump. It's like somebody trying to go from I don't run to I'm going to go run a 24-hour race. Like, you don't make that jump overnight. And so it was like, well, can you do 10 push-ups? And he's like, yeah, I probably could. And it's like, okay, let's do 10 push-ups today. He's like, okay. And I'm like, and then tomorrow I want you to do 11. And the next day I want you to do 12. And the next day I want you to do 13. He's like, okay, I think I can do that. And I'm like, that's all you need to do for each day from now till we talk again in 2 weeks. That's all I want you to do. Just increase by 1 push-up a day. And he's like, okay, I think I got it. In that 2-week period, he did it for, I don't know, like 7-8 days. And then he's like, well, I should probably like work out other things outside of my chest. So he signs up for P90X and starts doing that. And so like, I talked to him like in 2 weeks, and he's like, oh yeah, like I'm 4 days into P90X and I do it every morning for, you know, and like, that's my consistency now. It's like, it takes those little incremental wins to build your confidence incrementally. And then that helps you continue to grow and grow and grow. It's consistency. And so when it comes to building goals, what's a tangible, specific goal? And then what are the habits that we need to build daily and weekly that's going to help get you there? I don't even know if that was a question that you asked, but like, great. I just kept jumping from one topic to the next.
No, that was amazing. That did answer my question. Because even like for me, like sometimes my excuse is the gym's too far.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like 2 miles, right? It's not that far. You know what I mean? But then my next excuse is I just don't have the time of the day. By the time I get down there, I warm up, do my workout, come back. That's 2 hours. I'd rather spend those 2 hours. And I rationalize it that way. I want to run for 1.5 miles with my dogs, which they need exercise as well. And I do give them that.
Yep.
But in my head, I was like, including picking up their shit, like stopping to pick up their shit, throwing it away, and then running for 1.5 miles and back was 18 minutes. I have 18 minutes.
Yep.
I have 18 minutes. I have 18 minutes. I can do that. And so, like, in my head, I was like, fucking idiot. I could have just been doing this. And then eventually I'll end up going this 1.5 miles more. And then I haven't pursued that because in my head, I don't have 18 minutes. But now I'm like, hey, just try. I'm at the point where I'm like, I just need to put on my tennis shoes and see how far that gets me.
What's
just
the next
get your
step?
tennis shoes on, like the simplest thing. Just the first thing would be to get my tennis shoes on. And let's just see if I can work on getting my tennis shoes on every day for the next week and see how many times of those I run.
And run for 5 minutes. And like, go run, and like, that's it. And that's how you build. And like, it doesn't even have to be a full 18 minutes, 1.5 miles. Like, go do a 1/4 mile with your dog. And like, and then the next day, maybe try to go a little bit more. Like, that's how Dan roped me into doing this stupid race. Was so DBA,
great episode.
3 years ago, he invited me to help out with this race that he was doing. It was a 24-hour race, Columbia, Missouri. And I'm like, that sounds dumb. I would never do that. You're an idiot, but I'll definitely come watch you be an idiot. And it's a 2.5 mile course. And it starts at 6 p.m. on Saturday, 6 p.m. on Friday, and 6 p.m. on Saturday. And I was with Jake Ozowski. I vividly remember this.
Also a great episode.
I'm sure, like, tag the links to all those. He was in town, and I was like, hey man, I'm going to go help Dan out. And like, Dan needed us to like help refill his water bottles when he was like going through his laps. And I remember like bringing a bottle of whiskey, and Osal brought his iPad, and we whipped it up, and we watched Waterworld. And Dan's like out there in the rain, like killing himself running. It was like 6 hours, and we're sitting there like eating Cheetos and watching Waterworld. And so like my perception of like, that's not even possible. Like that was my reality. And then when he finished, and I was like, man, like I would go take a nap in the car in between his laps. Cause I was like, man, it's like 2 a.m. I'm just going to go take a nap, and he's not going to realize that I was napping in the car, cause I'll only sleep for 20 minutes and then come back. Anyway, he eventually caught on, but like the next day I'm like, man, that's really cool. Like, that's awesome that he did that. And he was like, honestly, like you could do this next year. And I was like, nah. And he's like, yeah, man, like what if you just decided to go run 2 miles every single day? He's like, can you run 2 miles? I'm like, yeah, I'm slow. And he's like, go run 2 miles every single day and just do it for 5 days, and then see what happens, and then increase it a little bit more, and then increase it a little bit more. And so this will be the second year running it. We ran it. Andy Laws and I and Dan and a couple other idiots decided to run it 2 years ago. And Dan ran like 80 something miles. I think I did like 62.5 miles. Andy like ended up walking 50 because he injured himself, and he like still walked. So if anybody's crazy enough, I think we have like out of like the 20 people total that have signed up for the race this year, like 15 of them are people that we've recruited, like Briefo and Shane Hertig and like all these other book guys are like, hey, you wanted to go do something really stupid but a lot of fun? And they're like, that sounds dumb. And I'm like, okay, but hold on. Just listen to this idea. And they're like, okay. And then I'm like, it's really dumb, but it's really fun. It'll kick your ass, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself. And like every one of them, go talk to any book person, and they're like, that sounds really stupid. Yeah, I should probably do that. I'm in. Let's do it.
How do we get you guys to wear Ponytails merch while you're doing that? That's the real question.
Dude, I'd love to do like we could do a story in like, I'll just take videos kind of throughout, and we could like send them to you, and you could kind of like splice it together and have, because there's going to be a lot of alumni that are running this race.
I know. We'll get you guys Ponytails merch, t-shirts to run in.
I'm totally in. And
in
like
there.
To think about it, like we've gone from 3 people to like Dan's goal is to have like 30 Southwestern book kids. So if there's a book kid out there that's listening to this that wants to run a race in April of this year, absolutely
24 hours
with us. 24-hour race. You don't have to run the whole time. In fact, you'd be insane if you actually did. You can walk however long you want. It's just a normal like cross country course.
It's just basically staying awake for 24 hours moving.
You can take a nap. You can leave. You can come back. Like you can eat as much as you want. It's just you have 24 hours. Try to go as far as you possibly can. And then you'll do a lap and you're like, man, that was tough. I bet I can do another. And I bet I can do another. And shit, I got like 15 blisters on my feet. Let's get those taken care of. And I don't know if I can keep going, but let's pop in some like Backstreet Boys or whatever gets you going. And then you have a little bit more energy. And we had like 6
podcast episodes.
That's
12 episodes. Man. You can squeeze in 12
get through
episodes.
12. That's more than a season. Maybe that's it.
That's half a season.
That's half a season. That's exactly what I meant. You should just give me all of the most motivating podcasts, excluding this one. And then that's what I'll listen to.
This is motivating. You got to
That's what I
listen to Ron
mean.
Alford. Ron Alford talks about how he
Oh.
runs 100-mile races.
He's being lame and he's like coming up with excuses for doing this one. This is me calling Ron Alford out. Like he needs to be running this.
Ronald. Come on, man. Is his full name Ronald? I hope it is.
I hope so. I'll have to ask him.
Anyway, damn, dude. That's so cool. All right. Here's the deal. I say we do the story of how our time in Portland, when I first came to Portland, and why this podcast was born, and then we go into some ponytails, and we go to some of your favorite book stories, and we wrap it up.
I'm into it. That sounds great.
So let's talk about your side. Or I can kind of set it up, and then you tell me what you remember, because this is a wonderful experience. This is when the first time ever when we went to Prost. Is when I met with Jacob Baines the first time, and
Prost.
Who, by the way, we need to get Jacob. We need to get Jacob
on here. Yeah, that sounds great. And then Nathan O'Donnell, another old book guy. And he's such a great storyteller. We should get Nathan on there too. Maybe they could both be on. I think that would be
like a duo.
Yeah, some Portland crew.
I'm in there. So basically, long story short, my buddy Jared, who did not sell books, wants to come and visit some friends from Lincoln, Nebraska to here. And he's like, dude, it's a 22-hour drive. We can take my car, split the drive. And I'm like,
done.
Do it. First and only time I've done Adderall in my life. And I stayed awake the whole time. So I'm like, 7 p.m. we leave. You're getting to Portland at like 5:30, 6 p.m. And it's a Friday night. And this is actually this is a crazy night. This is the night that the idea for the podcast was kind of like the idea was planted. This was also the day I met the weekend I met my wife, which is really bananas to think about. Yeah. So this is crazy. So I arrive into Portland and I'm like, oh, Will lives here. And I go, hey, Will, I'm doing a stand-up set at your grandfather's place on some street called MLK. Do you want to come out and then we can go grab some drinks? And he's like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So and I have not slept in now at this point 30 hours. Like I get there.
I think that explains a lot of what ended up happening. What came to fruition is you were just like slap happy from not sleeping and, running on Adderall and, some beer.
Yeah. Well, because then there's this time, and then there's a time I came back to Portland and I almost passed out at the park, which is a whole different story.
Yeah, we called 911. Hilarious.
Yeah. And then the ambulance showed up. That's a story for Bizzler.
That's a Bizzler story. Yep.
But anyway, so I meet Will, I do my stand-up set, and then we go to this dive bar. And was this on Burnside? I don't remember where
Yeah.
And it's just this piece of shit hole in the wall.
Only time I'd ever been to that bar was with you that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And
we just
who was all there? Because it was you, a couple of book guys.
It ended up being, I think, 3 book guys. So I think it was Jacob Baines, Nathan O'Donnell. Nathan was there, and then I think Nate Zinn. Maybe Britt Crooks. I can't remember, but there was
Britt Crooks. Britt Crooks might have been there actually, and then a non-book guy, and this is why the podcast was born. Yeah, this is why the podcast was born. So I'm just sitting there. You guys are all talking and sharing shit. I'm like just trying to talk.
And you didn't really know any of those guys.
I didn't know any of them.
Sell with them, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know any of them. And we're just sitting there at the bar. Across from me is the non-book guy. And so we're both kind of out of the loop because you guys know each other. So you're talking about like whatever shit. And then he's like, oh, so I was like, what do you do? He goes, I'm in sales. I'm like, oh, yes. Is this weird when they talk about like this book thing that we did? And he's like, I mean, yeah, but I kind of get it. I've done things that are similar. I totally get it. I'm like, I don't know, man. It's a little different. And he goes, nah, it's not. I'm like, it is though. I don't mean to be all weird about it or pretentious about it, but it's kind of different. There's some things you don't really understand. And he's like what? And I'm like, watch this. And you guys were all having your own conversations. So I go, hey, you guys want to hear a pony story? And everybody just shuts up, turns to me, puts their beer down and goes, yeah. And the dude's like, what the fuck is a pony story? I'm like, exactly. That's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And so we explained it all to him. And dude, the rest of the night when we go to Prost is funny too, but it's not super amazing, but the connection that was formed, because then after I started talking to all those guys, it was as if I had known them for as long as you had.
Yeah.
And there's something to
that's
that. Isn't that
instant
incredible?
Connection.
What is it about that? What do you think that's about?
I mean, we all get our asses kicked in the exact same way over and over and over and over again, and experience a lot of the same ass kicking, just in different states and with different moms that are rejecting us. And it's automatically like, oh, you got your ass kicked too? Like, yeah, man, I'm with you. Like, I know exactly your experiences, and I know exactly you crying at the end of the park, because you just got rejected, and you just, like, everybody has those experiences. It's all the same, no matter where you're from.
But it's so funny that like other people have been even in door-to-door sales and they still don't quite.
It's not the same.
It's so weird.
Yeah, that's true.
It's so weird. We go to Prost. There's a plaque. You have to drink 500 of these massive tall boys to get a plaque. And Jacob Baines has one at Prost.
Yes. Yep. I'm looking for my punch card.
I have mine somewhere. I just got my t-shirt. Did I show you that? Oh my God, I got my t-shirt. I just got through my first punch card. Yeah.
So great. This bar gamifies drinking, basically. It encourages you to be an alcoholic, and every time you hit a certain number of punches, you get some cooler shit. And so you get like a hat and then a shirt, and then I think I'm close to the plaque. And so whenever I'm coming back to Portland, I'm going to be an idiot and drink way too much and try to work to get that plaque, because that's what Jacob had. And he had here, and he had a Southwestern quote. You want to take it from there?
Yeah. Yeah. He goes, and the way they're building this up is hilarious. So Jacob's like, listen, it's a prestigious level to get to this plaque. Like it's you have 500 liters of beer is what you have to consume, or at the very least buy. You could technically buy 2 beers and give it to a friend, but 500 liters of beer, which is
you have to drink it. You have to drink all of them. I guess you could lie and then like slide it over and have them drink. But
it doesn't work like that. They only like punch you for the one that you get. So anyway, so the point is 500 liters of beer, which is like there's pools smaller than this. Like,
right.
And he goes, but when you get there, and then he just points to the plaque and it just says Jacob Baines, I will persist until I succeed.
It's like, yep. Okay.
That is how you get that plaque.
Yeah. I mean, he basically had a goal card. Those punches are like his
goal card. That is a goal card.
Like, break it down like per week. I got to get 3 punches a week over the next 10 weeks. And then I'll get my beanie. It's like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's how they get you.
When I got that t-shirt, I was like, yo, this is like, most people don't even have this. Like,
this is a $400 t-shirt.
Yeah. We should do that for ponytails, like where it's like you get like a t-shirt, whatever, all this different stuff for like downloading an episode or sharing it or something. We should do that.
Look at that. Business
Here we go.
Right there. That's
anyway, the reason the podcast was born is because in my head I'm like, this is hilarious, because if someone didn't sell books and they just read this plaque, they just sit at this booth and they just read this plaque, they're like, oh, that's a cool quote. Good for them. Great. Mm-hmm. But if a book person sits there and reads it, they're going to know exactly. They're going to be like, this motherfucker sold books. They're going to know. It's exactly right.
And then they're like, okay, that's possible. I can do that. I can do that if I have that belief.
And they will find Jacob Baines. If I sat down at that table and I just saw someone put a quote that I will persist until I succeed, I would Google him or Facebook him and be like, yo, I just saw your plaque. Yes. And he'd be like, yo, because they would know. They would totally know. Yeah. And that's what makes this show work, because then so by the way, this is March of 2020, which is right before the pandy. Like the pandy was about to rip open and destroy all normalcy of life. And then November comes around and I'm thinking, there should be, I bet you there's a podcast about this, looking for podcasts to listen to. And I look up book people podcast. I look it up, Southwestern Advantage podcast. Action Catalyst comes up, and I'm like, no, this isn't quite right.
Not
And then that's why I thought about it. I was like, oh my God, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this where I just meet with people, record these conversations like I had with Will and his friends, and people would totally listen to that because non-book people even are like, whoa, this is bananas.
You literally said it that night. You
Yeah,
talked
that
about
night's-
that. You're like, this should be a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, man, it should. And like,
and then it hit me later on, and I'm like, let's do it. And then that weekend we had our first episode. Jeff Powers. I called him. I'm like, Jeff, you got to be on the show. He's like,
what episode are we on right now?
186.
Full circle, man. Like
It just
that
bananas.
But seriously, like that's really cool. And if you think about that, that's you painting that picture of like, okay, let's fucking do it. Put my head down and like build this thing and build it from, scratch. I love it, man. It's so cool.
It's been a blast. It's been a
Yes.
blast. And now, as the name would tell us, it's time for the ponytails. I just wanted to like,
Ponytails.
since this is your first official like solo episode, we needed to put this story. We've told this story before in the past, but like you were the person that I was with, and I was like, we need to do this. So
that is true. I need to pour another glass of whiskey for that. So, cheers to that.
Cheers with
You're
you.
drinking kombucha.
Kombucha, by the way, started by a book lady. Great episode, Michelle Mitchell. Is this? Are you gonna take? Should I shoot this whole thing? Or are you gonna shoot all that?
No, I'm not gonna shoot this delicious whiskey. Yeah, psycho.
I know.
I'll drink it quickly.
Okay. All right. Drink it quickly.
We're going into the ponytails, the good stuff.
So for people who don't know, Ponytails is a part of this show where we intentionally hold off the best stories or favorite stories, whether that be the most impactful lessons, how you overcame something big. We've had people tell us poop stories, sizzler stories, and then they bought stories. It's always the guest's discretion as to what they want to share, but it's normally their preferred. It could be one story that lasts a long time, or like a big fat old story, or it could be like a couple little quick like lessons learned or funny things that happen. We never know what's going to happen, but the mic is yours, Will Metscher. Here are your ponytails.
Okay, I got two. The
Set
first
scene.
one was my fourth summer. It was whenever I broke out and ended up selling, like 600 units 9 times or whatever it was. It was that summer. And for those that heard our podcast, Andy and I actually told this because it deals with him. So he's an idiot first year. And again, to give Andy credit, like he worked his ass off, but he would chase things. And so we were selling kind of in the same region. We were in Scranton, Massachusetts. Scranton, Pennsylvania, Scranton, PA, where the office is supposed to be filmed that takes place. Set. Yeah. And we were just north of that in Montrose. And so I'm selling like in a adjacent town, and he's got a town like all the way over here. He sits down with his grandma. This grandma's like, I'd love to buy my grandkids some CDs. And so, which is not a good PA accent, but you get what my point. And he's like, okay, like which one do they want? She's like, well, I don't know. You'll have to go show them. Like being like the hilarious first year that he was, he's like, okay, where do they live? And it was like an hour in the other direction. And, he tried to say like, well, what happened was I did it on my way home. But I'm like, okay, so you ended up taking 2 hours to go show this CD pack to this family and then go home. Anyway, he went and like showed this family CD packs in my turf. And the mom ended up like picking out what CD pack they wanted. And the next day he went back to the grandma's house and they ended up buying. And so fast forward like 6 weeks later, like I'm already cranking and like feeling good. And Andy has a little bit of a lull. And so he's following me. And he's following me in that turf where he showed the mom the CD pack.
Honestly, the odds of that are already crazy.
It's
Like,
amazing. It's
just to
absolutely
interrupt
amazing.
quick in there. That's actually, but I never thought about it this way, but that's bananas. That on that
Yeah.
day, that's where you're going.
On that day that he's following me. And so I knock on the door and he's like, you know, the 10 steps back, and like not looking directly at the door, of course. And she comes to the door and, you know, she's like, oh yeah, Southwestern. Yeah, we recently bought. And I'm like, okay, cool. A couple of years ago, like Shayna, you know, whatever, little girl from Iowa. And they're like, no, this guy from Missouri. Actually, it was that guy right over there, and like points at Andy, and Andy is like looking
Staring
off
at
at
the
the
heavens.
sun or something, and just like, and then he like looks over and he's like, oh, hey, and like that's all he can say. And I was like, and I'm like, oh, okay, like
gonna
news
murder
to
you.
me. That's good to know that you're selling in my turf, you asshole. And you know, she kind of explained it. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Well, hey, you can join my Families for Education list. And so I'm having her sign like my customer sheet, just in case other people know who she was. And as she's doing it, I'm like, by the way, like, did he show you those bigger books? Like, how old are your kiddos? Like, what, you know, what grade? And like, we started talking, and I was like, did he show you those bigger books? And she's like, no, what's that? No, he just showed me some CDs. I'm like, okay, well, name drop a couple other people. They all actually got the thing to help out with schoolwork, and I can give you a quick look. And she's like, yeah, okay. And like, as she's going in, I'm like turning, like looking over my shoulder, like, yeah, yep, this is going down. Yeah.
And he's probably like,
And anyway, sit down, like go through it. And she, you know, she objected a couple times and like answered the objection. And she's like, you know, goes and gets her checkbook. And so like, I'm stoked. I'm like coming out of the house, like fired up, and get in the car. And Andy's like, you know what that was like? And I'm like, what? And he's like, that was like me inviting you to a party and introducing you to my girlfriend while simultaneously watching you hit on my girlfriend and then take her home that night. That's what just happened. And so again, and like we always, you know, Andy and I are still friends, and we still joke about that time of, you know, him stumbling into my turf. But yeah, I was like on cloud nine for the whole rest of the day.
That story is gonna be called the time you banged Andy's girlfriend.
Yes.
And people
yes.
are like, what? And you're like, no, what do you think?
So that's like a good feel good for me. And then
the lessons on that alone is like, always show
big
it.
time.
Always show your product, even if you don't think they're gonna buy, because you never know. Read the room, right? Ask good questions, ask the right questions. If you don't know what they are, just ask stupid questions until you get to the right one.
And have a drive. My whole drive was like, fuck that Andy guy for selling. Like, I could have had a CD pack customer here. I'm going to rub it in his face, and I'm going to make her buy something else. I didn't make her, of course, but it was like a little challenge, a little poke in the face. Like, haha, gotcha.
Also,
yeah.
also, if you have a pony, because ponies are anybody that buys, in my opinion. I know traditionally we refer to ponies as people who buy big packages, but in my head, I'm like, if people bought something from you, they're a pony. They bought something from someone they didn't know 20 minutes earlier. Like, that's a pony.
Yeah.
And so when you run into a pony, go until they say no.
Yeah.
Because that's the worst thing they can say. Because clearly they can say yes.
Yeah. And really the value of what we were doing was there. It's just the reason a lot of people end up not buying is just apathy. They're like,
yeah,
well, I could do that, or I could literally just keep staring at the wall and do nothing and not change or not do something to help whatever it is. Like, that's just sales in general. It's just, you lost a sale due to apathy, and you didn't help somebody make that decision that ideally, and the whole purpose of sales is serving and helping someone move in a direction that's going to help better them or their family or whatever it is.
Ooh.
You didn't help them break through that.
Ooh. Ooh, preach it. Can you preach it?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Story number one, the time he banged Andy's girlfriend.
Andy's girlfriend. Yes. Story number 2. So, you know how we talk. So East Coast doing that. And then I sold with Brandon Q. I sold in the South, and I worked in Louisiana, and some of my favorite times on the book field, and absolutely love so many of the souls that I got to meet, and just hilarity and just the type of people that I got to meet, and just selling out in the country in Louisiana was amazing. But it was hot as shit. And, you know, they talk about like Gold Bond, like use Gold Bond to make yourself feel better. And, you know, and I was like a firm believer in that.
For chafing, people who
For
might
chafing.
not know, it's for
Yes.
when you're running and moving your legs so much that your testicles chafe.
It's not a fun feeling.
No,
And
we're not.
so
We're being 100% serious. This happens. It's sweaty
this is
and it's gross.
actually, yeah.
And then it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it hurts to move.
Yep.
So you need to use Gold Bond. Gold Seal, Gold Bond, baby.
Gold Seal Gold Bond was like a true measure of how I'd start my day. I would put so much Gold Bond on that I'd run, and like during execs, and I'd jump, and there would be like a poof of Gold Bond coming out of my shorts. And that's how I knew it was going to be a good day, is I had Gold Bond on my Crocs. I'm like, let's go.
You look like an airplane coming out of Bogota. Just
oh, so many jokes wrapped into that. Yes, that was that. So that was how I operated. And it was like week 6. And I remember like I'm starting to get stride, and I'm like, my names are clicking. I'm feeling good. And I started to get like what I thought was chafing. And I'm like, oh man, like I got some redness down there. I'm like, that's not good. And I'm like, maybe I'm not using enough. And this is where I doubled down. And I'm like, okay, if I'm chafing, I got to use more Gold Bond. And so like I would just douse myself, pull over to the side of the road and like midday and be like, time for more Gold Bond. This is going to help. And it just got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. And I don't know why it took me like a full week for me to be like, hey, dumbass, I'm getting this rash because of too much Gold Bond, to where I knew it was a problem because I had like this like rash cream that I had to use to put on myself. And I literally took toilet paper and I wrapped myself in that toilet paper to get rid of the chafing. And I would like have to, and I would like reapply it midday. And I remember having to like waddle to people's houses and then knock on the door so I wouldn't touch my legs together. And it was funny because that was actually one of I ended up selling like 850 units that week. And I was just like the guy waddling around like the first half of the week, just with like poofs of smoke coming out from my shorts to wrapping myself with cream. It was,
this is chilling on a black couch and you're like,
I'll
sit on the floor.
But I'd made the decision. And so the learning lesson is I'm doubling down and I'm sticking with it until I felt like my male parts were about to fall out of my body. So that's the learning lesson.
Lose your future children.
Yes, that is accurate.
Oh, bro, that burn is unlike, and I know labor going with birth is hard. I know that hurts, but it's a different kind of,
it's like
burn. Like it's because that's like just guttural, visceral pain, but with chafing, it's like burning pain. It feels like it almost feels like when you rip off a Band-Aid, and like, or like with duct tape and like the hair pulls, or like it with, but down there, and there's no position you can sit in that it like feels good to like relieve it. There's no, it's just gonna suck for a while. Sorry.
Yeah. And to be fair, my wife does think I'm a giant baby and I can't take pain. And so she like makes fun of me because I'm like, oh, my throat hurts and I need to lay down. And she's like, you're being such a baby. And like, so she gets on to me. And so maybe it wasn't that bad, but it definitely felt like the world was coming to an end. And I was either losing my man parts or I was going to continue to sell books. And, you know, potato, potato, what choice do you take?
Off schedule, worth it. For the children.
Yes. What's crazy though is I wasn't off schedule. I just pushed through the idiocy of like, well, this is probably normal. I'm okay. Let me keep going to the next house. Okay, I need to go stock up on another 3 bottles of Gold Bond to keep it up. Yes.
That summer where your balls burned.
Rational thinking is not there sometimes when you're knocking on doors and
there's a lesson.
Focus.
Try to think not rationally.
Yes.
Or your 100%. Balls will burn. So, and ladies, be thankful.
That is one thing to be thankful of for sure.
I'm not saying it evens out the pain you go into with labor, but it does balance out something. I mean, it's still scales are still tipped, but maybe not as steep as you once thought. Man, well, you did a full episode. We did it.
We did a full episode. Look at that,
dude. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna finish. This is like,
don't choke on your whiskey. I remember my first whiskey.
Hey, you know what? Come on now. It's gone. And you breathe.
2 hours and 12 minutes. I'd say that was a solid episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end. If you have questions for Will about vision, if you want to learn a little bit more about how to be a coach, maybe you're interested in being Will or like Will, which you should be more like Will. I feel like it's if you're not religious and you don't ask yourself what would Jesus do or Dan Moore do, ask yourself what would Will Metscher do, and that'll probably still get you in the ballpark of the right place. If you guys want to be like Will, if you want to learn more about either getting coaching from him or helping him coach others,
or run a 24-hour race,
or if you want to run a 24-hour race, if you think Will should start his own podcast, either way, reach out to us and we'll get you in touch. We'll make sure he gets the message. Dude, I love meeting new people on this show, but I love also talking to my friends on here and getting to spend some time, because this is a good excuse to just catch up with you and see how life is going. Congrats on getting married. Last time we did this, neither of us were married men. Now we are both married men. Will Metscher is now taken in off the table. Sorry, ladies. Tall, dark, and handsome he is, and all. Congratulations, buddy. I am proud of being your friend. I'm proud to know you. And next time you're in Portland, we got to go get our punch cards even more punched at Prost.
Exactly. So, couldn't agree more.
Beer on
buddy.
me. Beer on me, sir.
Love being a part of this. Loving seeing you grow and kick ass, and love being able to pour into others, and hopefully some idiocy that we spouted over the last 2 hours brought some goodness, even if it's just one little nugget. So honored to be making these, man.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much. Catch us on the next episode. We're well into season 8. It's been a blast so far. 4 episodes in and 4 bangers right off the bat. Boom, 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 boom. So on that note, my name is Andres Gambo. We'll catch you guys on the next one. This has been the Ponytails Podcast. Peace out.